Welcome to Flipped Classroom. This unit is measurement and we are looking at volume and capacity conversion. Our learning intention is we are learning to convert volume and capacity using metric units, and I am successful when I can identify the metric units for volume and capacity, understand how to convert between different metric units, and know the relationship between volume and capacity. Now, converting volume, we use a similar way as what we used when we were converting area and length, and you can click the link at the top to jump to those videos. We have our cubic millimeters, cubic centimeters, cubic meters, and cubic kilometers. Now, to convert between each of these, we use similar numbers, but this time it's to the power of 3. To go from cubic centimeters to cubic millimeters, we times by 10 to the power of 3, or we times by 1,000. And we do that the same for all of those. Now, to go the other way from cubic millimeters to cubic centimeters, we're dividing, and we use those same numbers. Now, converting for capacity is a little bit easier. So we've got all our units there: milliliters, liters, kiloliters, and megaliters. You'll notice the case of the characters are very specific. So for milliliters, it's a small m, big L. For megaliters, it's a big M and big L. So to convert between each of these, if we're going from a big unit to a small unit, we're going to multiply by 1,000. And if we're going from a small unit to a big unit, we divide by 1,000. So each of those jumps is the same. Let's look at the link between volume and capacity. So 1 cubic centimeter is equal to 1 milliliter. So that's 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. That is 1 milliliter of liquid. If we have a cubic meter, that's a cube, that's 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. That's 1,000,000 cubic centimeters, which is 1,000,000 milliliters. And we can divide by that 1,000 to get it just to liters, and that's 1,000 liters. And divide that by 1,000 again to get to kiloliters, which is 1 kiloliter. Now, to give you an idea of how big this is, if you think about your 1 liter milk carton, to get 1,000 liters or a kiloliter, you will need 1,000 of those. And that would be 1 cubic meter worth of milk. Let's have a look at some examples here. We have 3.1 cubic meters into liters. We have 0.13 cubic centimeters into millimeters. We have 3.8 kiloliters into cubic meters, and we have 13.2 liters into cubic centimeters. So let's start at the first one. We know that 1 cubic meter is 1,000 liters. So all we have to do is get that number and multiply by 1,000 to turn it into liters. So we go 3.1 times 1,000 equals 3,100 liters. And that's the working that we show our teacher. For cubic millimeters, we know that cubic millimeters is smaller than cubic centimeters, so we're going to multiply by 10 to the power of 3. Going from centimeters to millimeters, we've got that 10, and because we're looking at cubic centimeters and cubic millimeters, we put it to the power of 3. So here we have 0.13 times 10 to the power of 3 equals 130 cubic millimeters. Now, 1 kiloliter we know is 1 meter cubed. So all we have to do for this question is change the units. So I can just write 3.8 kiloliters equals 3.8 cubic meters. And finally, we know that 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters. So we need to multiply by 1,000, and then we can convert milliliters into centimeters by just changing the units. So we show this by multiplying it by 1,000. So we've got 13,200 milliliters. And then we can change that into cubic centimeters. Now, for our reflection today, how does knowing the relationship between volume and capacity help us work out the volume of irregular 3D objects? I want you to think back to Archimedes, because that is how this works. As always, like the video and subscribe for more videos on maths.